Hi, this week's show is all about overthinking, and I've got some good news and I've got some bad news for you. The good news is overthinking is something that none of us were born doing. So there's an opportunity in there which we're going to look at. The bad news though is, as a habit, overthinking is quite difficult to overcome. So let's get started. Hello, this is Simon Phillips, and I'm so glad that you're back here having a listen into our latest show. And this week, as I said, is all about overthinking. And I want to start you off by recognizing that overthinking is nothing more than a habit. Now, it may be a bit of a subconscious habit, one that you haven't necessarily thought of in those terms. But if you recognize any of the symptoms we're going to talk about today, then I hope you will start to recognize this for what it is, literally a habit. Now, the thing about habits is they can be incredibly difficult to break through. There are opportunities and there are methods by which we can break down habits quite quickly. But in terms of sustainable difference and making something a non-habit in your life, that can be a real challenge, but we're going to talk about that. The key here, though, is to understand why it's become a habit for you, because that awareness will give you some insights as to how you're going to break this down. Now, for those of you new to the Change Show, I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. I'm on YouTube, I'm on podcasts with Apple Podcasts and Amazon Music and Spotify. And every week I'm trying to share some of the things that I typically share with my commercial clients. So I've done a lot of work over the years in just about every sector you can think about, helping clients get their heads around change. How can they make change happen in their workplaces? And what we found is over all of that time is that change is the same in every environment, whether it's a change you're trying to bring about in your family life. Maybe you want to switch careers. All of these things engage your brain in thinking about how you're going to cope with change. And that's what I'm trying to do here on these, through all of these mediums. So let's get back to overthinking and two of the big problems that it can manifest as. One of them is indecision, and the other one is non-delivery, sometimes caused by indecision. But anyway, they can be different, and I want to just have a quick look at those. So first of all, indecision. If we overthink a problem, if we overthink a question that we're posed, if we are delivered some circumstances, some change in our life, and then we overthink it and we pause for too long before we make a decision, that indecision itself is a great symptom and something that if you recognize, you'll start to recognize it for what it is. It's overthinking. It's applying too much thinking to something that doesn't need as much attention, for example, that we're giving it. And as I said, that can lead to non-delivery, or at least very late delivery of the things that are being requested from us. Now, over time, the brain starts to recognize those opportunities where we are being slow by our own standards, not by anything that anybody else is necessarily measuring, but even by our own standards. We recognize this in ourselves, and we hear ourselves saying things like, I can't make quick decisions, or we say things like, I'll get this to you, but I can't promise you it's going to be, anytime soon. Because we know that we have this problem, as we self-diagnose, of being overthinkers, as being people who we identify with the notion of being overthinkers. And over time that leads to low self-esteem. We start to doubt ourselves. We start to berate ourselves in terms of our inability to just make what are sometimes quick and easy decisions to make. We still overthink them. And if that goes on for too long, our self-esteem takes a real knock and we can be left feeling quite depressed and incredibly low mood about this this inability to make things happen. At the top of the show, I was linking overthinking with self-sabotage. And I want to just explore that a little bit more, because you may not be thinking of your overthinking as being something that can be self-generated, as something that you're doing that's harming you and the things that you're trying to achieve in life. There's three aspects of overthinking that could be sabotaging you in the minds of other people. So whilst we do berate ourselves, it's the reputation that we build with others that's important, and that's the first thing that I wanted to mention. If you start building a reputation that is one of indecision, that is one of very slow delivery, that's one of a lack of commitment because you're not signing yourself up for things that you are actually perfectly skilled and capable of doing, but your own nature of overthinking, or this habit as we've described it of overthinking, is holding you back. That becomes your reputation with your peers, with your clients, with your families, with your people that you deal with in the community. If you are one of those people that self-identifies as an overthinker, this is the reputation that you will get with others. And over time, that sense of low self-esteem you will see mirrored in the way that people deal with you as well. Again, over time, it gets perceived as poor achievement. Now, sometimes that poor achievement is easily resolved, and you can get to work on it, and you can just make sure that you repair your reputation. But sometimes it means that in terms of your engagement and interaction with others, you become an invisible player. You become someone that tends to be excluded from people's thinking when they are planning or working out how something is going to happen, because you're not reliable. You're someone who is giving over the impression that you don't want to take on responsibility because you can't guarantee you're going to deliver it in any sort of reasonable time frame. Now, of course, I'm building this up as to be something that, is incredibly problematic. But I do want you to recognize that even if this is low level for you, even if it's just, relatively low level, the things that you overthink, the challenge can be over time that becomes even bigger. But the first step in any progress is awareness. So if you recognize any of these things that we've talked about, either the things that you say and think about yourself, or the things that you might starting to be perceived in the way others treat you, if it's just starting to emerge and you've now got some awareness, we can work with that. And that's the great news, because it only becomes self-sabotage when we're actually aware of it. Otherwise, it's just things that we're unaware of, and actually we don't know how to fix them. As soon as we've got that awareness, we can start building a plan for improvement and self-improvement. And in the space of overthinking, self-improvement really starts with trying to understand why we do it. And you won't be surprised to hear that some of the reasons why we overthink are actually built deep into our psychology and come from experiences that we've had in the past, potentially when we were a very young age, that are still guiding the way we think and go about our everyday activities. So the first one is actually a sense of wanting to feel in control. We overthink things because we have a desire to control them. We have a desire to know them inside and out and know what's going to happen and what could potentially happen and what's happened already. That sense of overthinking because we want to control it somehow. So in looking back for the origins of this, if that's why you feel you're overthinking, it could be that there's an episode in your life where you felt out of control. And if that's the case and it's deep rooted, then you might want to seek the help of a counsellor or somebody that can help you think that through. Another reason why we tend to overthink things might be from a sense of wanting to seek safety. So it's linked to that fear of control, but it is different. So thinking about things in a great amount of detail or for a long time can generate a sense of safety around a particular activity that we're embarking on or a change that we're trying to create. If I know every detail and I can anticipate what's going to happen next and I can think that through as well, then that tends to make me feel a lot safer. And so to work with that one, again, it's work backwards. When have I felt unsafe? What were the emotions I attached to that? And why am I still holding on to that as being something that I need to value, even to the expense of other things that could really move my life forward? Which brings us to the third reason why we might overthink, and that could be fear. We could fear that if we make a quick decision, or we put ourselves out there and volunteer for something, or we deliver something for the world to scrutinize, we might fear how the world is going to respond. Now, the lovely thing about fear, we can go back and work out where did that start, and that might help us move a bit forward. But the lovely thing about fear is we can recognize it purely and simply for what it is, which is false evidence appearing real. We can look back at the things that we have delivered, the things that we have volunteered for, the things where we have engaged and made quick decisions, and quickly assess, did I die? And if we didn't die, what was the worst possible outcome? And did that actually happen? Or is my experience that I did those things and I came through it and everything was fine? Because when we look back, even at our most recent decisions that we've made, or even the most recent things that we've engaged in, we tend to find most of the time they work out just fine. We were fine, the people around us were fine, and even when it wasn't perfect, it was still good enough for us to move forward. Now, that's the great news about fear. If it's more deep-rooted than that, again, please reach out to someone and talk to them about it and let them help you work through it in a way that enables you to feel more confident to move forward. The last one I wanted to explore is one which we've developed the habit because maybe our background, and for many of us, that might have been in school, it might have been in our family environment where we've been praised for thinking things through thoroughly. Whew, that was a good one. Thinking things through thoroughly. And actually, that's great. There are circumstances in which we absolutely should think things through thoroughly. I'm just showing off now, aren't I? But that's not everything. There are some things that don't require that amount of thought, that don't require that amount of rigor. And those things are the ones that we tend to overthink. So let's break that habit one decision at a time, one opportunity at a time, one conversation at a time. Catch yourself in the moment if you're doing something, and you can review it and say to myself, do you know what? This doesn't need any more thought right now. Maybe I can pass this to someone else and ask them, is there anything missing? Is there anything else that you need? More often than not, they'll say, no, this is great. So we've come full circle. Is it overthinking or is it self-sabotage? Do you know what? It really doesn't matter whether it is overthinking or self-sabotage. We now know we can do something about it. We can fix it. So this week, if you've detected anywhere that you maybe overthink things slightly, or you sense that other people have that perception of you, start to work on it. Just one conversation at a time. So thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, I hope that's a sign that you found it useful. So please subscribe and share and put a comment below. Tell me something that you'd like some support with, or a query that you have, and maybe we can do that in a future episode. So for now, look after yourself, have a great week, and I'll see you here next Wednesday.